Good afternoon, everyone. So our topic is personal brand versus corporate brand. Uh, I think, and I was talking to the panelists just 5 minutes ago, that there shouldn't be a versus, in my opinion. But I am the moderator, so my opinion doesn't count. So let me start. Let me ask first, Amrit. So, in your opinion, is it a versus or is it a and?
So in ideal world scenario, personal branding should complement uh, the company's branding as well, but it doesn't really work. So most of the time it is and.
That was a very brief answer. I could just take out the paper from my pocket, and the answer is so. Nidhi, why don't you give a stab at it?
I think I'm going to agree to what he's saying. It's not an and or situation here. It is more about complementing both together. And there is no deviation there also. You can't disassociate personal brand from corporate brand anymore.
Okay. That's again the same thing that we were talking about, that there is very little to disagree between the three of you. So let me ask this question. This is open for all of you. Let me try and stir up a honestness, and let's see if something interesting comes out of it. Have you guys, in your experience, come across any uh, corporate leader, or have known personally or through someone, where there was a issue between the CEO or the founder's personal brand and the company's reputation? And you don't have to name the person. You can give me a yes or no. And what were the challenges? And if you personally managed that, how did you manage it?
So there are a number of examples when a corporate leader or a founder CEO has taken up a cause and have spoken about it in public, and that has created a negative media cycle for the corporate brand. In all such scenarios, I think after every such fiasco, what I have done as a corporate communications professional is having a word with the CEO, and we have tried to have a media sensitization program. So there are causes which may be very dear to the CEO as a person, but then we don't live in a perfect world, and we should be very cautious about the topics that we choose to speak about in public forum. And everything that a CEO does in public, whether it's on social media platform or through any other public speaking engagements, he has to be very cautious about whatever he's saying, how does it impact the overall corporate branding. Irrespective of personal opinions, we can't really say that these are my personal opinions. It doesn't relate to the company that I work for, but the outer world doesn't really see like that. So for them, the CEO or the founder represents the company, and whatever the founder says or does in public life, the company may also hold the same values.
So, Pradeep, uh, this is something that I've seen usually in founder-driven companies, because young companies where founders are expected to sort of go out and speak more about themselves, because in younger companies, founder's brand is the company's brand. So this is where if the founder is really not prepared or ready, or somebody who's not trained to be like out there in the to speak to the external world properly, this is where these issues come, because companies position us several in a different way, whereas a founder may lack those certain values. So this is where gap in alignment comes.
Yeah. Nidhi?
I'm going to give a slightly different opinion here. And
Thank God.
we're talking about Indian organizations here at this moment. I'm going to go the global perspective, really. Recently, there was a case, and I'm not going to name the organization, I'm not going to name the person, but a leader in the organization who was the face of the company in the US, a global organization, had to leave. Reason being, the moment Trump got elected, she ranted out on Twitter, from her personal Twitter account, obviously. But that was immediately picked up by media. So whether it was The Guardian, it was the BBC, it was the CNN, all of them picked it up. Elon Musk retweeted and lashed out at this person. And it just became a big controversy. So while what this person had mentioned on Twitter was more or less correct, truth, but it wasn't something that this person was expected to do. Because, you know, as a corporate brand ambassador, you're not supposed to be doing this. And what happened then was an apology had to be given, which obviously was driven from the com side. B, despite the apology, because the controversy became so big, this person had to step down. Now, when you see a situation like this, you also realize that personal brand, however small, and corporate brand, however big, it can't be two separate identities. They are very much the same. And whether a leader big or small, you will still have to make sure that you are very mindful of what you are writing or putting out in public domain as a leader of an organization.
Okay, let me take a 180-degree turn on your answer and ask if any one of you can give me examples of CEOs or founders where their personal brand helped to build the corporate brand. And because our topic which was given was emerging leaders, if you can give an example of a startup or some company which is less than 10 years old, it will be great. But you can even go back in history and give me any example that you can think of. Karan, why don't we get one more chair here? I think that will be interesting. She is making good points. Let us get her. Or give her a mic also. Okay. So other than Elon Musk, which is already an example.
So in Musk's case, I think I would say that this is where all your concepts fail. Usually would say that obviously the corporate brand has to be bigger than the personal brand. This is what you would at least expect in most of the cases, but Elon Musk, obviously he defies that. There are a number of CEOs who have done that, Pradeep, especially the new age startups, all the tech companies, all the renewable energy companies. I can sort of give example of one of my previous employers, and the founder, he obviously built his own reputation as the CEO of the largest renewable energy company in India, and they pivoted from a B2G business to B2C sort of business. And this is where the personal brand really helped him. He was able to sign the kind of contracts that other companies in the industry were not able to sign. So
yeah, I'll name it. I'll name him, and I will also give you a very interesting fact, and that how life and how the world is a very small place. So the three people sitting here, all three have worked in the same company, Renew Power, okay, and the name of the gentleman is Sumant Sinha. And as part of our strategy to build the reputation of Renew Power at that point of time, I'm talking about what, 8-9 years back, or maybe 7-8 years back. So that time his brand was very, very big as compared to the company's brand. And we deliberately used his standing to build the reputation of the company. So that was one example I was hoping that one of them gives, okay. So obviously there are other examples.
So
there is, sorry, you please, I forgot I am the moderator, sorry.
So without naming the company or the person, I would say that I have also worked very closely with one of the Maverick founders in India. And again, I mean, he has his own reputation of being a down-to-earth person, someone who has built an entire empire coming from a very
Will you
humble
name him or
background.
should I?
I would avoid naming anyone. And
He worked for Paytm.
And when the company was going through a really rough phase with regulators, with government authorities and everyone, the moment we convinced him to stand up and speak on stage and to the public at large, the entire media narrative changed. Because there was the entire perception around him that he's someone who doesn't lie to people. So if he's saying something, he still believes in his company. He's someone who's ready to hold the horses, who's ready to take control of the entire organization now. So the company will come out of this fiasco. And the narrative changed after that. So yes, personal branding of the CEOs also helped during troubled times.
Nidhi.
And since both of them have started with, startups, I'm going to go with an established organization. I think the best example, and Karan just mentioned, is Anand Mahindra. I mean, he is one person whose personal brand beautifully complements the corporate brand and the vice versa. Both of them are always in sync. I've had the opportunity to work with Anand Mahindra closely, so that kind of also helps me understand how he thinks about it and how he has always prioritized a marriage of sorts between the corporate brand and personal brand. But then he also makes his personal brand very, very authentic, which helps, bring in a lot more credibility. So while Mahindra's is an established organization, a lot of times Anand Mahindra goes and takes a stand, which may or may not really be the corporate stand, but then he beautifully aligns these two in a way that it automatically comes together. And I think that's the beauty of a personal brand, a strong personal brand, really uplifting a corporate brand as well.
Yeah, and a couple of other examples I'll give, and it's not necessarily they have to be there on social media, is PepsiCo CEO Indra Nooyi. Indra Nooyi, built PepsiCo's or changed PepsiCo's reputation from the seller of sugar water to a company which also sells Quaker Oats, Tropicana. And not only was it a external approach, all these acquisitions were brought in by her when she was the CFO. So a strong personal brand in majority of the cases, until unless you screw it up badly, will help the organization. That's my personal belief. And in case you don't agree, please, feel free to air your thoughts. I will now start with Nidhi again. So Nidhi, have you, and I'll first give you an example, and that will clarify what I'm trying to ask. So when I worked with maybe 7, 8 CEOs during my tenure at PepsiCo. So one of the CEOs, and that is why I will not name the person, one of my jobs from the global team was every morning I used to get this email saying, "Rein in your CEO. He is on too many panels." So now, have you ever come across such a scenario where the personal brand, and I'm talking now as I'm making a distinction between founders and professional CEOs, because founders usually of companies which are famous are either mavericks themselves or they are a brand in themselves. So that's given. I think we have discussed a lot of those. Any professional CEO that you have come across whose personal brand was overshadowing the company brand, and again, if we can restrict it to an emerging company, great, but that's not the final destination.
I would say many, but and again, without naming people, there are a lot of times when you really have to, pull strings and say, hey, you got to stop. You don't have to really go all way out. A lot of times, people in their exuberance say things that they do not intend a certain way, but are perceived very differently by the audience there. And I think that's where the distinction has to happen. That's where what you were mentioning about media sensitization, media trainings, and I know most of the leaders don't like it because they say, we know it all. They know it all. They don't want to be trained, so to say. And I agree to that. I totally agree to that. So most of the established leaders, they always do. So even in global organizations, when it comes to regional leaders, they always are a pain. And I'm sorry to use that word, but they are always a challenge to deal with and work with. You might have the best global leaders who are very meticulous, but the regional leaders, they completely screw it up. And you have to rein them in, so to say. You have to make sure that you grill again and again and again. These are the key messages. These are the ways you want to go about it. You wouldn't want to, say something that is taken out of context. It happens so many times. I've had the good fortune to work with a German company, which is, as Germans, are very, very meticulous. So they'd need briefing documents 2 weeks in advance, a month in advance, and they'd work on it. They'd read it. They'll be very, very meticulous on what is to be said, what is to be avoided. How do you, go to a different country and work around on topics? How do you deal with media? How do you deal with stakeholders in that region? But I've also worked with regional leaders in a few countries where they are completely out of context. You have to make sure you're somewhere in the vicinity when they are having conversations so that they don't say things that you don't want them to say. It's not that they're wrong. They want to talk about it. But a lot of times, in exuberance of speaking in public, they say things that otherwise could mar the corporate repetition. And you have to be very mindful there.
Adding on to this, Pradeep, and because you asked for example for a young founder-driven company which has faced this challenge, without naming the organization again, there's one of the companies that I used to work for, and
Actually, I asked for the opposite, but you can go
okay,
ahead.
sorry, my bad. But I'll probably talk about that. Fair enough. But so it has a mix of both, in fact. So what has really happened there was the founder had a stronger personal brand than the organization because it was a startup at that point in time. The organization got acquired by a large Dutch multinational, which has been making money without a lot of external exposure for 127 odd years. The moment that transition happened, the acquisition happened, the global mandate was that the CEO should not have any global exposure at all. So it changed 360 degree or 180 degree for the CEO there. Having said that, after 3-4 years, that organization itself has now realized that humanization of the brand is very important, and they themselves have started now having the global CEOs, etc., and the regional leaders go out and speaking at separate forums and have their own social media presence built. So yeah, the learning has been there, but this is how usually it operates. Yeah.
So I'm now changing to a very different thing. Similar, obviously the topics remains the same. So we work with a lot of CEOs where we talk to them and tell them, how their online presence or online brand should be. And the one thing that I found in common among most CEOs who are professional CEOs is that there is a hesitation. There is a big hesitation on building a personal brand because they don't want to be seen as someone who is using the corporate money or corporate time to build a personal brand. And that's not a generalized statement, but I'm talking about several examples. So in such a case, if your CEO doesn't want to be there, let's say on social media, and you are, let's assume you are a B2B organization, very important for you that your CEO is seen and heard, because it's not like that, you are a Pepsi, that the number of bottles of Pepsi are not going to change if you are not there on social media as a corporate leader. How would you convince him or her to come to social media, be active? And let me give you one statistic, and this is from the Edelman Trust Barometer, that in India, 80% of the informed public across obviously several cities wants the CEOs to come directly on the social media and speak to them. So let's say you are one where your CEO doesn't want to be active on social media. How would you deal with it?
So yes, true. So
I'm glad Amrit has taken the baton because the other two were looking very
because
perplexed.
because I've also worked with one of the CEO who doesn't want to be on social media, and he always used to think that let's talk only about the company. I don't want to be on even LinkedIn. So X or any other platform is beyond his imagination. So, but I can tell you how the conversation flowed. So to convince him, we finally had to tell him that look, his responsibility includes running the company, and not only running the organization successfully, but also building an positive image for it to the outside world. He, as a CEO, whether he likes it or not, he is the extension of the company's brand and image as well. So whenever he's talking on stage in the public, whenever he's doing any kind of meet, whether he's talking to the media or internal employees, he is representing the company that he has founded. So it's better that he adapts to the changing requirement, he adapts to the new generation, he adapts to the social media and learn to do it. Because again, with social media, if you are into it, learn to play the game and you have to play it and win it. Because there is no two ways about it.
The CEO does not want to go out and speak, and the brand or the organization or the regional business is not performing, no matter what you say, in my experience at least, I've not been able to convince this person. Because usually what happens is these guys are asked in the boardrooms, and if somebody at the top has a ego, and then these guys are answerable there. So if the organization is performing, then you can go, and of course then you can give them all the statistics and information and all the logical pointers, and may be able to convince them. If the local business is not performing, then the CEO, no matter what you say, will not go ahead and do it.
I think I'm going to say that it's not just the CEO, a lot of senior leaders. Again, there is no debate here that you can't avoid social media, not in today's times. I remember 10 years ago when we started working with one of the leading corporates in India, and the leaders were not comfortable being on social media. And we still do that. I think comms has this job of managing their social media accounts. You know, we manage, yeah, a lot of organizations do that. So the intent was not to manage their accounts forever. The intent was to give them a head start, make them see the potential social media has and how they can leverage it for both personal branding and corporate branding. So I think that helped. A lot of global organizations, even today, the CEOs obviously have their social media accounts managed by the communications teams, but they are very clear as to what they want to talk about, how they want to go about it. I think there are two aspects to it. One is the aspect of social media and, you know, having a lot of content go out from social media on their personal accounts, which obviously teams can manage. The other bit was what you mentioned, Pradeep. If people want to hear them live, and if they are not ready or not willing to, how do you get them there? I think that also comes with a lot of initial awareness, how to manage platforms, how to speak, and what is in it for the organization and for stakeholders really to take away from these platforms, and how then can we, you know, get them up there. It's not easy, it takes a lot of preparation, and I know that, you know, working with them, we've got a lot of leaders prepared and ready to speak on social media as well. I think it's important to make them aware and understand the importance of it before really, you know, just pushing them jump into it.
So what I hear all of you saying is that we should take baby steps. So this is for the audience, I'm just translating to normal English. That let's take baby steps, let them see some success, let them get comfortable, and then they will turn around eventually. There is no magic wand that anybody has. It has to be done individual to individual, it will vary. So have I correctly?
Absolutely.
So just to add to what you are saying, that most of these CEOs and most of the founders themselves are natural storytellers. In fact, that is how they raised money, right? And they built this entire company. So we as communication professionals, our job is just to fine tune their storytelling ways according to the new generation or according to the audience. That's it.
Yeah, I think he was being
I was trying to be polite.
very polite. So in some cases, I'll just confess that I have let them screw up and then turn around if they don't understand the normal language. Okay, so that brings me to a related thing is that during trainings, or do you think that, as Paroma was saying, that we have worked with a lot of professional CEOs and also founders and all of that. Many of them are open to trainings and, you know, being coached, and some of them specifically love to ask us, okay, how should I speak? And some of them have also embarrassed me by asking in the middle of an interview, saying, okay, did I say it right? So that challenge also we have faced on the other side, on the other 180-degree angle. But have you guys faced any such examples where the training I have faced, and I will not, again, cannot name, but where they refuse to be trained.
That happens often.
So how do you manage that?
So, so I mean, it's just a conversation. Again, it goes on to a platform that you have to manage the company, you have to manage the reputation of the company as well, and similar stuff. But at the end of the day, it also boils down to the personal thought process and personal ego of the person we are talking to.
Yeah.
I think it's the personality, you have to take into consideration here. And also understanding your leader to know what would the leader associate with, and then making sure you sell it that way is very, very important.
Okay. And how do you keep them authentic, especially on the social media? See, one to one, they are very authentic. They are great storytellers. Most of them are, and that's why they are there, at CEO positions or founder positions, because they are great salespersons, they are great storytellers, they're natural. But when it comes to social media, there is usually a problem of authenticity. And I'll give you some very funny example that the CEO is just reposting all the posts of which are put on the company by LinkedIn with one or two liners. It feels so lame. So how do you manage to get the authenticity in? And the second problem, and I'm just giving you a few problems, is that they will leave it to their team. They'll say, I don't have the time. If you want to do it, that's the other, I would say if I have to categorize into 4 or 5 different types of CEOs, they will say, okay, you are up, every day you come to bother me. Okay, you manage it on my behalf. And then there are others which you guys were giving example where they will go on a different tangent altogether. So there are obviously various kinds, but I'm talking about these first 2 kinds, where one, they are doing lame stuff, and the other, where they are way off the mark and they are in a very different level, and there is no synergy with the corporate brand.
Should I?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So I think when we say media training, social media training or social media briefings are also very important. How I have gone about doing that with leaders, and I'm just going to take it personally here because everyone does it differently in different industries and sectors, but having very clear demarcations on what are the 2 industry topics that you would want to associate with, both as an organization and personally, and just stick to 2. And the third topic is a hard topic. What is it that you really feel for, and as a cause, as a topic that you relate to, and you would want to continue talking about it on social media for your personal brand? I think these 3 topics, if you identify, it makes their life easier, it makes your life easier to then work around it and make sure that there is alignment between the personal and corporate brand, and at the same time, the leader also is passionate about what he or she is saying.
I would say that, Pradeep, I mean, usually how we approach is, initially the comms team takes care of the social media handles of such leaders. And before doing that, there's a lot of research, study, Q&A, understanding of the personality, building of the persona happens.
Yeah, time is up.
Sure.
Okay, let's take a few audience questions. So over to the audience. Sorry for cutting you in between. So at least I think that we were having an interesting conversation. I hope so. Please, any questions?
Just allow me a moment, Ms. Chaudhary. Let me pass on a mic to you super quickly. Right.
Jeff Bezos certainly is. So there are huge advantages to having a brand CEO. They can completely change the narrative. If you see the congressional hearings of these 4 global CEOs, you just see how, what a hawkistic approach Jeff Bezos has. But that's a very risky thing to have. If you're not that confident or qualified, I mean, it can just, the whole thing can land on its face. So, as professional communicators, and there are plenty of founder CEOs in India who completely land on their face all the time. So, I mean, would you recommend now, these days, that should communicators build brand CEOs? Like I don't mean people like Bhavesh and Ritesh and all that, who already have very large personas. But now, the younger folks, what is the advantage of building a brand CEO versus let the organizational brand speak for itself and not the CEO? So what, I mean, Pradeep, you can take it also.
Yeah, I'll say one thing and then I'll leave it to the panelists. Today I'm reining myself, and being a moderator, is that I don't think there is a will you or should you. The lines have blurred completely. So now it is a question of to what degree. You cannot have a CEO who's not on a brand, because everybody. So let me take a very different approach. Who doesn't want to work for a CEO who is charismatic? Who doesn't want to work as a partner to companies where the CEOs are well known? Who doesn't want to? I've heard this so many times, and would you have, because you have been working in that investment field also for quite some time. Investors also bet on a horse. I've heard this line so many times that I'm betting on the person. So it's horse means not horse betting, but on the person. And obviously, so one person who is a brand with the same idea versus another person with the same idea but not a brand, it's very simple who you are going to choose. So the CEO's brand is intrinsically aligned, especially in this digital world. So the question is not that whether you will, how much will the comms team, it's a meter. There is no zero there. There is starts from the middle and goes to Elon Musk, which is obviously a no-no. So you have to have a balanced approach as a comms person if you are given the choice. The other point I want to make is that 90% of the time you don't have a choice. Either the person is on their way to becoming a brand, if I'm talking about somebody who's still has to become a brand, or they are not. It's very difficult to, as a comms person, to build that. Sorry, I think
There's a degree of difference. See, a Jeff Bezos versus a Tim Cook.
No, so is the comms person has the choice to build that? No.
I mean, Tim Cook isn't a brand the way
Yeah, that
Jeff
is what I was
Bezos
saying.
is.
So we don't have a choice to build that.
Apple speak for itself. But this is a very long debate.
So
I
you
know,
know,
I
I think it is always a choice, but when it comes to a brand CEO, it is the persona of the person. You can't have a completely coy, shy person become a brand CEO. That is never going to happen.
Precisely the point. And
then
vice versa.
Absolutely. And then there are certain charismatic people you can never rein them in. You will still find them larger than the brands themselves.
You want to throw us off the stage? Please feel free.
100% not. If anything, I'm enjoying the conversation, but again, punctuality is what makes us go around.
No, I think at the end of it, I'm sorry, I'm just going to make sure that we end it here. It is for the person, A, to decide whether or not they want to grow their individual brand the way we are talking about certain individuals here. But at the same time, there are certain brands that are too large and overpowering to have a person take over and become the brand CEO unless and until the person is really, really charismatic.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. I think I wanted to have a spirited conversation. Yeah, this is world class and single malt.